Hello guys, I'm back from another video and today we're talking about what if Deku was in RWBY. So in the last video we talked about how, well, quick summary, after waking up he would meet, Zwei. After doing so, he would wake up the others and, well, they would also see him, not wearing a shirt and also just like wearing just his boxers, which, has a prominent bulge. And after waking up and also, well, Ruby would basically came in and basically would ask, where's Why, which is apparently the dog. And after seeing him basically, almost half naked, well, she would try to find a way to basically, like, look away. But thankfully, she didn't have to, look at him for too long. Sort of, she actually really wanted to do that. But either way, after, giving Zwei back, he would tell her to basically put her dog, like, at least somewhere else so this wouldn't happen again. And after doing so, he would tell the others that it's better for them to basically keep sleeping. And as for him, he's going to be making breakfast. And so after making breakfast, all of them would basically, get to the auditorium where several other students would basically appear. Mostly students from other, from other academies, to Vistal, to, what's that called, that place? From Atlas, Beacon, to, Shade, and finally, yeah, Haven. I almost forgot about that. And so, after telling the students why they're here, which is mostly for the, their daily assignment, which is basically just doing some field work with actual, huntsmen. And after being told of this, Izuku and the rest of, like, Team Colorless would start picking their, their assignment, which they would decide to go for a, a search and destroy mission, which this mission is supposed to be, requested by, Professor Oobleck. And so after doing so, they would finally leave, which, they would also get their, uniforms, clothes, things of that sort, and also suitcases. And after arriving where, where he is, he would basically introduce himself as he was told, as he would basically tell everybody that, there's gonna be a few more people that are going to be joining him. And after these people arrive, they were, well, Team RWBY, as Izuku and the rest of the girls would basically be surprised seeing each other. As after a bit of talking and also, well, after noticing that, for some odd reason, let's just say something is wrong with, well, with Blake right now. Like, she seriously has a problem right now, and that reason is starting to become a little bit more prominent in this, episode. Let's just say that. She seems to have, these weird-looking hard eyes, as she seems to be, well, rubbing rubbing her legs together. Almost similar to Velvet after they met last time. And so, after, after equating themselves with each other, they were told to basically go with, go into the bullhead, and so they would start leaving to go to the southeast, which is apparently where they're going. Or was it, like, northeast? Let me just check. Yeah, it's southeast, or at least I think so. Anyway, continuing on, after basically arriving at the southeast, they would basically be settled down on a, on a cliffside where they would notice a large broken down city, which has apparently been attacked by several Grims, and they were told to basically take care of it. Mostly, just doing some recon work and also take care of a, a nearby, like, nest of, like, Grim. Sorry about that, I kind of burped, wait. Sorry about that, anyway, continuing on. But while they were moving, they would basically set down their stuff to basically rest for now. But while they were resting, one of Team RWBY's bag, specifically Ruby's bag, would start to move a little bit, as when Izuku noticed this, he would decide to check it out as, well, he would get jumped on. Yeah, he would get jumped on by, Zwei, which surprised him a little bit. And after, Professor Oobleck saw him, he would, praise Team RWBY for basically bringing him. Apparently the reason why is because, I don't know at this point. Like, I can't really remember what he did at the time, but I think he said, like, something about, like, something about, like, it's a great idea to bring in a animal with them in case of, like, tracking down something. But either way, after, doing so, they would start moving again, and after arriving at a nearby broken down, like, hotel room, they would decide to sleep there, as everybody's basically, like, sleeping on the floor, as Izuku decides to like sleep on the somewhat, manageable bed. Well, not really manageable, I mean it's still pretty much dirty, but at least he sort of cleaned it. And after cleaning it, everybody would basically, start laying down as Dr. Oobleck would basically ask them what is their motivation or their reason of becoming a huntsman. And after, giving all of their, the reasons why they're basically doing this, basically becoming a huntsman, is finally Izuku's turn, as Izuku would explain that he wants to protect everybody, just like just like how he, couldn't back when his village was basically destroyed. And after giving that answer, everybody would instantly fall asleep, as RWBY was told to basically be the watch. And so, that's where we basically, ended off the episode. And so, let us talk about what happens next, ladies and gents. So, we currently see, Izuku still pretty much sleeping. As he's currently, sleeping on the same bed, or at least the, king-size bed with, his, with his beloved, or at least, his, now girlfriend, aka Skyla Lark. But while he was sleeping, nearby, we currently see our lovely little kitty cat, aka, Blake, currently having, a hissy fit at this point. Well, apparently the reason why she had those heart eyes is because, well, it's Fauna's Heat Week. Oh no! So, she's currently having a bit of problems. As, because I didn't meant week, I meant month, as she's currently, how, like, actually I'm not gonna say it because it sounds so wrong, but, how women have these, yeah, those types of things? Well, just imagine that, but, like heat. Like, how, like, mating season is. So, imagine something of that sort. So, yeah, currently she's trying to, trying to think of other things besides, that. As while she was trying to, get those thoughts out of her mind, currently, we currently see, RWBY still looking out. As, after a while, basically just like, just, just like looking around the city, making sure that there's no Grim nearby, as just like in the, just like in the show, she would basically cause a cave-in and causing her to basically fall to a large city underground, which is known as, I think it's named, apparently the name of that city, or at least the underground city, was called Mountain Glen, but for some odd reason, it almost sounds similar to, Mount Glen, or, the mountain where, Undertale starts in, which, theory anyone? Anyway, continuing on, as we currently see, Izuku once again, as he's still pretty much sleeping soundly. But, unfortunately or fortunately, in some people's eyes, like you perverts over there, we currently see, Blake basically walking up to him. Or not really walking up, but more like sneaking her way towards Izuku's bed, as she would say to herself, can't hold it back anymore, she would say, as she would start, having these, lustful eyes towards Izuku, as she would say this, Izuku, she would say, as she would start, going towards him, basically crawling on the bed, as before she can, they would start to hear, or at least, Blake would start to hear, Dr. Oobleck basically, waking up, as he would say this, alright, RWBY, hey, any of you want to, as before you can say anything else, you would see, Blake gone back on the bed as fast as she can, as she's currently pretending to sleep, as she would say to herself, please, please, doesn't notice me, please, please, don't notice me, she would say, as, Professor Oobleck would say this. Anyway, and if you want to go, be next for the lookout, he would say, as when he said that, one of them would basically start to wake up, aka Izuku, as you'd say this. Yeah, I get, but before they can actually say anything else, they would hear the sound of barking, as when they, woke up, and I mean all of them, including, including Dove and also, Rachel, they would notice why basically barking at them, more specifically, with a little bit of how do I say this? This almost like, worried, face, or at least worried expression, sort of. I mean, he's still a dog, so he doesn't really have any expressions. Sort of. I don't. At this point, I'm starting to think to myself, do dogs really have expressions? Ah, whatever now. As, Izuku would say this. What is it, you damn dog? He would say, as he would start barking at everybody, as he would start pulling on Izuku's shirt. Or, actually, yeah, more like, monk suit. As he would say this, hey, don't stop biting on me, he would say. As the dog, as in, Zwei would start, trying to get him out of the bed. As he would say this, ugh, fine, he would say. As after saying that, he would start to get out the, bed, as he would tell everybody to start moving. Including, Professor Oobleck, as they would start to listen to Izuku. And so they would start leaving to where, he was basically leading them, aka Zwei. As he would say this, what is it, you damn dog? As, Yang would say this, yeah, what is it, Zwei? He would say, she would say, as after saying that, Zwei would basically bring them to a large crater. As Izuku would say this, why are we... Wait a minute, he would say. As after thinking a little bit, he would say, wait, did Ruby just... As one of them would say this, Ruby just what? Said, a somewhat worried Yang. As he would say this, did Ruby, fall into that hole, he would say. As after hearing that, they would start to panic and decide to, jump in as well. But before they can, one of them specifically, wait for a second. Professor Oobleck would basically tell them to stop, as Dr. Oobleck would say this. Hold on, kids, he would say. Before we actually, go into the base, or at least, that large ass, or, that city down below, we should, prepare ourselves, he would say, as he would bring out his weapons, which seemed to be... As his weapon, which is, a thermos, which sort of confused him at first, as he would basically twirl the thermos as it would start to extend, and then transforms into a staff mixed with, like, a flamethrower, which, by the way, sounds quite chaotic, to say the least. Like, imagine a modern-day Son Wukong as you'd say, yes, flamethrower staff. Oh, God. So, I could just imagine, if, like, if Dr. Oobleck was like, in German, he would just go like, time for the Flammenwerfer. Oh, God. Anyway, as after doing so, he would tell, everybody to basically get ready in case of a battle happening. And so he would basically bring out a rope out of nowhere, which, actually not really out of nowhere, he would basically, wait for a second, sorry about that, he would basically grab it from his bag, and after doing so, he would throw down, some rope as everybody would start climbing climbing down, As everybody was climbing down, Izuku would, be in front. As, not really in front, but more like be the last one to basically climb down, because there's no way that he's going to be, going down first. I mean, just imagine if, like, Weiss were to go down. I mean, she is wearing a skirt, so, yeah, no. And he doesn't want to be labeled a pervert. As everybody has finally gone down towards, the city, they would basically, look around as Izuku would say this. Whoa. Well, this place seems to be quite interesting, he would say, as Oobleck would say this. So, it seems that we're in Mount Glen, he would say, or, Mountain Glen, he would say, as he would say this. Mountain Glen, he would say. After saying that, he would say this. Yeah, young Midoriya, he would say. This place is actually used to be a old colony for, wait for a second. An old colony for, for Vale. But unfortunately, ever since a, little incident where thousands upon thousands of Grim basically overrun the city, well, we basically abandoned this colony, so yeah, he would say. As Izuku would say this. I see, he would say. As after saying that, Zwei would basically start moving towards, a nearby building, or at least abandoned building, as Izuku would say this. Wait, Zwei, wait, he would say. As after saying that, he would start, using, his data path to basically fly. As for the others, they would start using, their respective, their respective, semblances. As for Oobleck, actually, what is Oobleck's, semblance again? Yeah, I couldn't find like his semblance, or at least I tried searching it on Google. So, yeah, I'm just gonna say that he's basically just like running after Izuku and the rest. And after arriving at a nearby building, Izuku would say this. Huh. So this must be the place, he would say. As after saying that, Zwei would basically start barking a little bit as he would start, whimpering after doing so, and would start, going close to Izuku, as he would say yes. What is it, Zwei? He would say. As after doing so, Zwei would start, growling a little bit, as he would say this. Let's go. But before you can, he would notice, a few, people a few people nearby. As after doing so, he would say, as after doing so, he would decide to use, use one of the, I can't remember the actual, technique, but actually, yeah, I think I remember now. It's basically just Sunshin. So, after doing a Sunshin, he would basically, teleport towards, a nearby, ceiling, light, which is, strong enough for him to basically, keep himself, on the air. As after doing so, he would start looking over, like looking towards the ground where all the people were. And these people were White Fang members. As some of them are currently, talking, and he would notice Roman Torchwick there. As Roman Torchwick seemed to be, talking to everybody, as while Roman Torchwick was basically talking to everybody, he would say this. Now, this is quite going to be easy. After all, we did capture the little rose over there. As after saying that, he would say, wait, he captured Ruby, he would say? As after saying that, he would decide to, use one of the, I can't remember the actual name of, of Ino's clan from Naruto, but just imagine, Izuku using one of their techniques, the mind transfer technique. Not mind transfer, but more like, the telepathic thing, where he's able to, connect to everybody. As after doing so, he would start connecting to the rest of his team, and also team, the rest of Team RWBY, and also Oobleck, as he would say this. Hey, guys, can you hear me? He would say, as some of them would, would be surprised and would say, wait, Izuku, where are you? He would say, as he would say this. I'm using my telepathic abilities right now. Anyway, I'm currently inside of the building, and I heard that, wait for a second, my tooth, and I currently heard that, that Roman Torture has captured Ruby, and it's starting to piss me off, he would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this, specifically Yang. That, did he, as after saying that, he would say this. No, I promise, she's probably safe. But to make sure, everybody be careful, he would say. And make sure to try and, get Ruby back, he would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this. Sure, said, one of them. Specifically, what is her name? Yeah, Dub. As after saying that, they would start moving towards, a escalator, which doesn't work, obviously, and so they would start, taking steps to go there. As for Izuku, he would start, looking at the rest of of the White Fang members, as he would say this. Guess I'll try and take care of them, he would say. As after saying that, he would start, creating, aura-based, weaponry, more specifically, some aura kunais, as he would start, grabbing, not really grab it, more like, would basically, like, do a Zoro, and would basically, grab something from his mouth. Not really mouth, but more like, create something from his mouth. And this thing was a chakra rod, or an aura rod in this case, which, it's basically has the same properties of the, of a chakra rod, aka, from Naruto, which is basically able to, like, disrupt the, flow of chakra, but instead, just imagine it, but with aura. So, after doing so, he would start throwing all of the, aura-based kunais towards some of the, the White Fang members. And after doing so, they would get stabbed or be incapacitated. And after doing so, he would jump down as he would say this. Hey, Roman, he would say, as Roman would say this. Oh crap, not you, he would say. As after doing so, he would see the rest of the others basically there with him, as one of them would say this, specifically, specifically Yang, as Yang would say this. Hey, Roman, she would say, as after saying that, he would say this. Yeah, he would say, as he would say this. Give back my sister, you damn freak, she would say, as after saying that, he would say this. Sorry, but unfortunately, she's going to be a thorn in my side. No pun intended. But either way, as after saying that, he would say, bye-bye, he would say, as after saying that, he would start, as he would throw, a piece of, like, yeah, a piece of, like, of, yeah, fire crystal or fire dust towards them. As after doing so, he would grab his cane and would fire at, the fire crystal, or, the fire dust. And after doing so, Izuku would get the full brunt of it, as everybody would be surprised, as, Yang would say this. Izuku, she would say. As after saying that, Izuku would say this. Doesn't really faze me, he would say. As after saying that, everybody would look and would see, well, a large ass, piece of wood that was created from the blast. As he would say this. Remember, wood release, pretty strong, he would say. As after saying that, all of them would be be relieved that, Izuku's okay. But either way, he would start. Are you serious? It's going to rain again? Wait for a second. And so, after, doing so, he would start leaving, and also the rest of Team RWBY and also, Team Colorless would start, leaving to go to basically find, RWBY. As we currently see, Zwei basically following, not really following, but more like leading them, where supposedly, her, aka, RWBY is. As after arriving there, they would see RWBY basically just like tied up, as she would say this. Thanks guys, she would say, as Izuku would basically release her, thanks to help of like, creating a little like knife made out of, aura. As he would say this. Alright guys, let's follow him, he would say. As after saying that, they would agree and would so start leaving. And so after, a bit of like, running around the, entire city, they would arrive at a train station. As after arriving at the train station, they would see that the train is starting to move, as he would notice that Roman Torchwick seems to be in front of the train, as he would say, alright guys, he would say, as after saying that, they would start, following Izuku towards, the train, as everybody would basically get on board, with at the nick of time, because the train is currently now moving, as Izuku would be on top of the train, or at least one of the carts, or, in the, the last part of the carts, or at least the last cart there, you basically get it, as after, getting on top of one of the carts, the rest of them would also follow suit, as everybody would just, look around, as Izuku would say this. I wonder where's this train actually going, he would say, as, one of them would say this, specifically Professor Oobleck. But my calculations and also the terrain here, it's probably going to the, wait for a second. By my estimation, it's probably going towards the main city of Vale, he would say, said Professor Oobleck, as he would say this. I see, he would say. As after saying that, he would start looking towards, towards the, front of the track, as he would say this. Alright, guys, as after saying that, he would say this. Let's try and take care of the, let's take care of the, the ginger-haired bastard, he would say. As after saying that, all of them would agree and would so start, getting ready in case of, like, anything happening. But, before they can, they would hear this, they would start to hear explosions. As Izuku looked at the roof of where, the used to be, underground city was, as it would start falling apart, as he would say, wait, dynamite, he would say? As after saying that, one of them would say this. Guys, look, said, Dove, as, it's kind of ironic. I mean, she doesn't really look like she can actually, look at anywhere, because she usually just, like, most of the time she doesn't really, show her eyes, so, yeah. Anyway, continuing on with the episode, as after, saying so, they would see several Grimm basically coming out of the gaps of the, now broken down ceiling. As these Grimms were now pretty much pissed. And after, seeing all of the Grimm basically trying to, get to, or at least go towards the train, Izuku would say this. Hey guys, he would say, as one of them would say this, specifically RWBY. On it, she would say, as Oobleck would say this. I'll follow her, he would say, as he would say this. Good. As after saying that, all, the both of them would start leaving to go towards the, the front of the train, which Izuku theorized were, not Oblique, I meant, Roman Torchwick is basically controlling all of the bombs, as you would see this. Alright then, he would start, cracking his, knuckles as he would say this. It's time for me to take care of all of these, disgusting creatures, he would say. As, after saying that, the others would also agree. And so, let's just say this is going to be a bloodbath for all of the Grimm right now. As, after saying that, Izuku would start creating, several trees with, one of his, jutsus, as you would say, ninja art. Wood style. As after saying that, he would start, puts his palm against the train as several trees would start, appearing out of nowhere. As, several trees would basically come out of nowhere. As he would say, Deep Forge the Merchants. After saying that, several trees would come out of nowhere and would start, punting some of the, Grimm backwards. And some of them getting stabbed by several of the branches. As he would say this. Hey, guys, he would say, as you look towards the rest of Team Colorless, as you would see this, I'm going to be going inside the train. I'm going to be going inside the train. As after saying that, all of them would basically, nod their heads as you would say this. Good. And please be careful, he would say, as you would look towards, Skyla, as she would say this. Don't worry, honey, she would say. Besides, as she would start twirling her, her weapon. Wait for a second. As she would start to twirl, her, axe. As for the others, they would also spin, also reveal their weapons, as they would say this. Good luck, she would say, as he would say this. Good luck to you, he would say, as after saying that, he would start looking towards the rest of Team RWBY, as he would say this. Alright guys, let's go, he would say, as they would start opening the, the hatch where the, bottom part of the, or at least, one of the carts is, as after doing so, they would basically jump inside. After jumping inside, they would see several, White Fang members getting ready to fight, as after doing so, Izuku would start fighting them, and the rest of Team RWBY would also fight. Basically cutting them down, most of them, as Blake would start, using her, gamble shot to slice them apart. While for Weiss, she would start, using dust crystals to basically fire at them, while using her glyphs to basically enhance her attacks. For, for Yang, she would start punching all of them, while also shooting off, shotgun blast. And as for Izuku, he would start, using, yeah, I guess you can say that they're kind of like, kind of similar to butcher knives, I guess you can say, but I'm just gonna call them swords. As he would start, using his sword to basically cut them down one by one, as he would start using a bit of Onamarasu to start burning them alive. As after doing so, he would also start using, one of his, animal paths, more specifically, summoning out a large, not really large, but more like a decent-sized dog. About the size of, like, your typical beowulf. As the dog would have two heads and would start, slashing all of the, remaining, White Fang members. After doing so, he would start to hear clapping, as he would say this. Well, 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 it seems that you're finally here, he would say. As after saying that, he would see Roman Torchwick, as he would say this. But unfortunately, it's gonna be your end. So prepare, children, he would say. As after saying that, he would snap his fingers as three people would, arrive. Not really three, but more like, two, I meant. As after doing so, these two people were, Neapolitan, as Neapolitan would just look at Izuku with, well, with sympathy to say the least. And a White Fang lieutenant member. Or at least, a White Fang lieutenant. Wait for a second. And so, after, these people arrive, one of them, specifically the White Fang lieutenant, would say this. Prepare to die, you damn bastard, he would say. As after saying that, he would say this. As after smiling, he would say, well then, guess I won't hold back, he would say. As he would start creating, two wood-like, claws, as these wood-like claws would start being engulfed in a bit of Onamarasu fire, as he would say this. Well then, let's start this show, he would say. As after saying that, he would start charging towards the White Fang and Lieutenant, as for, and as for Yang and also Weiss, they would start fighting against, Neapolitan. As for, Blake herself, she would start fighting against, Roman Torchwick. The fight would just easily be beaten by, Izuku, as Izuku would easily beaten, the White Fang Lieutenant, as currently, his spine is now currently a pretzel. Actually, no. Just imagine him just, like, doing the Bane, the Bane, like, yeah, just imagine him basically, like, doing, like, the, typical, like, not really typical, but more like, the iconic, Bane, like, spine break, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, you know how, like, Bane basically, like, cracked the spine of, like, of Batman? Basically, imagine that. And so, after doing so, he would start looking at the others, as we currently see, as after doing so, he would notice, Blake already about to basically defeat, Roman, as after seeing this, he would think, huh, I guess we will. But before he can, he would notice, Blake and Wise, not Blake and Wise, I meant, Wise and also Yang about to be killed by Neapolitan, as he would say, shit, he would say, but before he can actually do anything, somebody would basically jump in and would attack them. Or at least, Neapolitan. As this person seems to be wearing, a White Fang member mask, but it's not, not a typical, like, Grim mask. It's more resembling of a monster than anything else, not actually a Grim, as she would basically attack with a katana. After attacking, Neapolitan, she would basically be knocked back, as after doing so, Neapolitan would be a little bit confused, as the woman would basically, unsheath her katana, as after doing so, her katana was once the katana was basically sheathed, she would start looking at, Neapolitan, as Neapolitan was a bit scared, as Izuku would notice this. After doing so, she would start, disappearing, turning into, nothingness, as you would think, probably one of her illusions, he would say, as he would start to bring out his, his Sharingan, or at least his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, as he would notice her basically, running away in an instant, basically going towards, the front part of the, train, as he would say this. He would just sigh, as he would start looking towards the girl, as he would say, hey, who are you, he would say, as the girl would not speak. The girl would just look at him, as she seems to be, not showing any emotion, but she seems to be, on their side for now. Or at least that's what he thinks, but for now, he thinks that she's sort of an enemy. But after, a bit of, like, looking at her, she would basically, unsheath her katana, sheath her katana once again, and a portal would basically appear out of nowhere as she would disappear. As he would say this. Probably her semblance, he would say. As after saying that, he would start looking towards, the battered up, Weiss and, Yang. As he would start going towards them, as he would start using some healing jutsu to heal them up. And after, healing them, they would basically start to wake up as... Wait for a second. But, before he can actually, finish up the healing, he would notice, Roman Torchwick has, escaped, as he would say, shit, he would say, as we currently see, a, somewhat, dizzy, Weiss, not Weiss, I meant, Blake, as Weiss would say, not Weiss, I meant Blake, as Blake would say this, ow, that hurts, she would say, as she would say this, Blake, are you okay, he would say, as she would say this, well, sort of, she would say, as after saying that, both of the girls would also wake up, aka, Weiss and also, Yang, as Yang would say this, ow, that hurts, she would say, as he would say this, so you guys okay? As after saying that, both of them would, nod their heads as he would say this. Good. Now, wait, Torchwick, he would say, as after saying that, he would say this. I meant, she, aka, Yang, as she would say this. Wait, you left Torchwick, she would say, as she would start looking at, a somewhat, angry, a somewhat angry Blake, as she would say this. Distracted, she would say. As after saying that, Izuku would say this. But either way, we should follow him, he would say. As after saying that, they would start following, following where, Torchwick has basically left. And so, after, a bit of, like, walking through the, carts, they would decide to basically go towards, not really go towards, but more like, basically jump up and would basically break down the, the ceiling door. As after doing so, they would start to come out of the, ceiling door, as they would see, both Oobleck and also, a somewhat, pretty excited, RWBY, as he would say this. Ruby, why are you looking like that? He would say, as you would start to hear the sounds of, like, of people basically arriving, as you would look towards, behind them, as you would see the rest of Team Colorless, as you would say this. Hey, Skylar, are you okay? He would say, as she would say this. Yeah, fine. A few scratches here and there, but, nonetheless, we're just okay, she would say, as you would say this. Good. And as you'd start looking towards, Ruby, as she would say this. Yeah, about my excited face, well, as you'd start looking towards, Zwei, as, after looking at him, he would notice that some of his fur seems to be singed, as he would say. Don't tell me that the dog actually, as she would say this. Yep, he was able to basically fight. As after saying that, he would start to think to himself, the fuck is this dog? He would say to himself. But either way, after saying that, he would start looking towards the front of the train, as he would say this. Come on, guys, he would say. As after saying that, he would start, going towards the front of the train, and wait for a second. As when they arrived at the console, the console, he would see, as in, the front of the train, he would notice that, some of the devices were either broken or, disabled, as he would say. Shit, we're too late, he would say. As after saying that, he would also see, some of Team RWBY and also, almost all of his, teammates from, Team Colorless seemed to be a little bit worried, as he would say, what? As after saying that, he would look towards the, where the train was heading, as he would say, shit, he would say, as he would notice the door of, or at least the wall, where, where the front of, like, of, wait for a second, the door of, the door of, like, Veil is, or at least one of the walls that basically is, basically, like, protecting Veil, as after doing so, the train would basically knock it down, like, how a Jenga tower is. As after doing so, the Grim would basically, get out of there and would start, terrorizing the place. Some, high-ranking Grim, like the Basilisk, or at least I think that's the name, it's basically the Snake Grim, would start terrorizing the place. As for, some Beowulfs and some Ursas. As he would say this. Shit, he would say. As after saying that, several of his teammates, including Team RWBY and Dr. Oobleck, would just be, trying to find a way to basically save everybody. As they would, protect some of the civilians and would start bringing them out towards, towards, a nearby, facility to basically take care of them. Or at least a nearby building to take care of them for now. As, Oobleck would basically tell everybody that he's going to be, calling, Veil to, not Veil, I meant, Beacon to basically take care of, the area, or more specifically, bring in some cavalry, or, backup. As after saying that, Izuku was told to, to basically act as, like, the sort of defense towards, Veil from the other, Grims. As after being told of this, Izuku would say this. Well then, guess I'll just have to use this then. As he would start, using, a bit of his energy. More specifically, he would start, standing in a, Buddha-like pose. As, after doing so, weird marks would start to come around his face. As Team RWBY and Team, wait for... And Team, and Team Colorless would also see this, as one of them would say this. Wait, what happened? What is happening to you? She would say, specifically, RWBY, as he would say this. Well, I guess it's time for me to show you my true power, he would say. Or at least half of it, he would say. As after saying that, he would open his eyes, as his eyes would be a different color. Instead of, like, his, like, Sharingan and, his Tenseigan, instead, they seem to be somewhat like normal colored eyes, specifically his usual green eyes. As he would say this. Take this! Wood style, he would say. Wood golem! As after saying that, a wooden golem would basically appear, as a wooden dragon would seem to be, around its neck. As everybody would just be impressed, as some of the people nearby would also notice the large golem made out of wood. Currently, with Beacon, as Beacon would basically send out a few, Atlas soldiers, which were, funded by, by General Ironwood, and also, some of the, students from, Veil, or, from Beacon. Like, for example, Team, Juniper, and also Team Civics, which finally arrived after their mission. As for, some others, you know, we also see Team. Actually, I don't really know if they actually have a team name, which is, the team led by Cinder. As Cinder would notice, something in the distance, as he would say, I meant she, wait, what the heck is that? She would say, as, one of them would say this, specifically, well, Mercury or Mercy. Wait, is that a golem? What is it? Like, one of them would say, as, we currently see Team Juniper, as one of them would say this. What in the... Said, a pretty confused, wait for a second, a pretty confused, Ren, as, Pyro would say this. The heck is that, she would say. As they would, see a large golem made out of, wood. Or at least a giant made out of wood, as it seems to have a serpent basically around it. As for Team Civics, one of them would say this. I think you have to see this, said, one of them. One of them specifically, specifically Daichi. As everybody else, from Team, Coffee, which is apparently their actual name. Like, how? Like, when I search up their name, they didn't really, to have the actual pronunciation or the actual, name of, the actual team. So I just called it Civic because I don't know why, I just thought it was cool. So after seeing the wiki, apparently it's called Coffee. How? Like, how? I mean, I could definitely see why. I mean, there's CF, but what about the... At this point, I'm not going to question it. So, as Team Coffee would basically notice this, they would say, what the... As everybody else would also notice this as well. As, some of the Atlas soldiers would say this. What the... Is that a golem, said one of them, as one of them would say this. Wait, is that a wooded dragon, said one of them? As one of them would say this. I'm guessing that's one of the semblances of one of the students there. As after saying that, we go back to Izuku, as Izuku would be on top of the golem, as he would say this. Take him down, he would say. As after saying that, the golem would start gripping onto something, as this something seems to be a axe made out of pure, aura. As after doing so, it would start cutting down all of the Grim in an instant. As some of the members of Team, RWBY and also Team, Colorless, including, Team Oobleck would be on top of, the dragon. As one of them would say this. Whoa, this is awesome, said, Yang. As Izuku would say this. Well, you didn't see anything yet, he would say. I meant, you never seen anything yet. But, let me show you a little bit more of my tricks, he would say. As after saying that, he would start, doing some, hand signs, as he'd scream out. As after, doing the hand signs, he would scream out, now, planetary devastation! After saying that, everybody would start, after hearing that, that familiar phrase, you would see several of the Grim would start floating up towards the sky, as everybody else, including some civilians, would start looking out their windows, and including some of the bullheads, as the bullheads would basically get out of the way in case of them basically getting captured by the, the gravitational pull. As after doing so, the, gravitational pull would basically disappear, as after doing so, a large ass planet, not really planet, but more like, something about the size of, a meteorite would basically be formed, as several Grim would basically start screaming out. As in several, I mean all of the Grim that basically, gone into Veil. As he would say this, now, he would say, as his arm would start, slowly changing into a large, cannon. As his arm would, become something of resembling a large cannon, as he would basically start aiming towards the, center of the planet, as, or at least the meteor, as he would say this. Now, shatter, he would say. As after saying that, he would fire off a blast that, slowly shoots towards the large-ass, meteorite, as it would slowly change into, several, beams of light. And I mean several, as they would basically split off from the actual, large beam, as it would start to destroy the entire, thing. As after doing so, it would explode into nothing more than masses of, or at least chunks of, meat. As in meat, I mean the, I guess you can say, the body parts of the, of all of the, Grim basically falling to the ground, as everybody would just be amazed, as the Atlas soldier would say this. Then, why were we sent here? Like, seriously, this kid sounds so overpowered, said one of them, as one of them would say this. Yeah, I totally agree, said one of them, as we go back to Izuku. Wait for a second. As after, doing so, Izuku would basically, recall the wooden golem as he would start going into the ground. As after doing so, he would drop to the ground as he would say, too much aura, he would say, as he would start leaning on, on one of them, specifically, Skyla, as she would say this. Izuku, are you okay? As he would say this. Yeah, too much consumption of aura, he would say. As after saying so, we would also see, Roman Torchwick just, amazed from his power, as he would say, how is this kid, he would just think in his mind, how the fuck is this kid even a huntsman, he would say, how is he, a huntsman in training? At this point, he would start thinking in his mind, did he just get held back or something? Seriously, what the fuck? Sorry about that. He would go, how the fuck is this kid, that powerful? He would think to himself. But before he can, Atlas soldiers would basically arrive, including some of the members of, or at least some teams from, from Beacon. As, after doing so, they would upper hand, Torchwick, as Torchwick would be sent towards, to one of the, to one of Atlas's ships. And after doing so, the rest of, the teams from, from, Beacon would basically start coming towards Izuku, as one of them would say this. Izuku, are you okay? Said, a word, what is his name again? A word Ren, Ren, as he would say this. Yeah, I'm fine, he would say. Just tired, he would say. As he would say this. Oh, I see, he would say. Just take a rest, he would say. As after saying that, he would say this. Yeah, I guess you're right, he would say. And after saying that, he would start looking towards the others. Specifically, the rest of, Team Juniper and also Team Coffee. Which, I still can't believe that's their actual name. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, their team leader is named Coco, so... But still. So, after, a bit of, talking to them, and also, team, Cinders' team is basically there, basically watching all of this, she would say this. I just hope that, those dumb civilians get the wrong idea and think that their hope in huntsmen are now ruined, she would say. As after saying that, we go back to, Roman Torchwick, as after being detained, he would be brought to, the Atlas ship, as he would say this. Good luck, my lovely little, my future grandson. Not really grandson, but more my future son-in-law, but, he would say to himself, but, unfortunately, this is all according to plan, he would say. As after saying that, we currently see Izuku and the rest of, the teams of, of Beacon would start leaving, going back to the dorms. But, nearby, we currently see, the rest of, Team Cinder, I guess you can say. I'm just gonna call it Team Cinder for now. As Cinder would basically, be with the rest of, with the rest of her team, aka Mercury, and also, Emerald, as she would say this. Now the preparations are finally finished. Now, I want you to come out, Adam, she would say, as a man would basically appear. And this man seems to be wearing a jacket, and it seems to have... Wait for a second. We see the man has a jacket with a, design on the back that seems to resemble a white rose, or at least I think so. As he seems to be wearing a grim mask, which marks him as a White Fang member, but he would also have one broken horn, as he seems to be, with them, as he would say this. It seems so. Now these pathetic humans are gonna pay with their lives, he would say. As after saying that, Cinder would say this. Very well, Adam. Now, we should prepare, after all, tomorrow. Or at least soon enough, when it's finally the Vital Festival. We'll make sure that those people would know that the huntsmen are never to be trusted, she would say. And after saying that, the screen fades to black, and so we're going to be basically, ending off the episode right off here. So yeah, this is, the end of not really the end of this, series, but more like, the end of volume 1 and 2. And if you're asking, yeah, I'm also gonna do the rest of the other volumes, but, was that volumes? But not volume 9, because it's not, released yet, or at least I think so. And if it is, then, I'll just have to wait until it's, fully out. Like, all of the episodes are out. And because of that, and so, we're gonna be ending this episode right off here. So yeah, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!